So it was something I really wanted to do, but then I thought, how is the audience going to react to this? You know, are they ready for me to really do this? And I thought, they are. They have to be. I'm 25 now.
A candle. Flickering in the dark. A young girl singing beside it. Eyes closed. Voice pure. Like she had not a single care in the world. That image. Right there. That is exactly what they wanted you to see. But here is the thing about candles. They burn out. And nobody in Hollywood was watching to make sure this one did not.
And she leaves acting. She leaves Hollywood. She's gone. Some people might say that's sad. Others might say, well, she saved her own life.
And what you are about to hear is not the story her publicist approved. Not the version the studio packaged. Not the sanitized, carefully edited narrative that won her 2 Emmy Awards and made her one of the most beloved faces in American television history. This is what actually happened. And by the time this video ends, you will never look at a child star the same way again. Picture her sitting close to someone she loves. Warm. Comfortable. Laughing. The kind of image that ends up on a magazine cover. The kind that makes you think she has everything figured out. She is living the dream. Now hold that image in your mind. Because the truth sitting just beneath that surface would have shattered every single one of those magazine covers into pieces. Go back to the beginning. Not the beginning Hollywood gave you. The real one. A car. Parked on a film set. A little girl inside it. Too terrified to get out. That little girl is Kristy McNichol. And that detail, that one quiet detail that nobody in the PR version ever mentions, tells you more about who she really was than any interview, any award show, any primetime appearance ever did. Her mother Carolyn was not a stage mother drunk on ambition. She was a woman fighting to survive. Secretary work. Makeup sales. Bit parts as a movie extra on productions so small they barely left a footprint in the industry. One of those jobs took her to the set of a low-budget film called Bigfoot. No babysitter. So she brought her kids. Jimmy and Kristy. Jimmy loved every second of it. Lights. Cameras. The whole world of movie magic. Kristy sat in the car. Alone. Watching through the window. Too anxious to move. A crew member spotted the kids from a distance and casually told their mother they would be great for commercials. One sentence. From someone whose name nobody remembers. That sentence changed everything. Auditions. Then commercials. Then sitcoms. And then something nobody saw coming. Because Kristy McNichol did not just perform. She connected. And there is a massive difference between those two things. Most actors spend their entire careers chasing that difference and never find it. She found it at 14 years old. The role was Buddy on the Emmy-winning series Family. And the moment she appeared on that screen, 30 million Americans felt something they could not fully explain. They trusted her. They loved her. Overnight she was not just a star. She was a household name in the truest, deepest sense of that phrase. And the industry looked at that 14-year-old girl sitting in front of those cameras. And saw an asset. Here is what the controlled narrative always leaves out. While the studios were counting ratings. While the networks were selling advertising. While the press was writing glowing profiles about America's most naturally gifted young actress. The lines between parent and child at home had completely dissolved. Kristy was not the kid in that house. She was the adult. She cleaned. She managed. She stayed up worrying about when her mother would come home. She once looked at Carolyn directly and said, "You are the child." Her mother replied, "And you are the mother." Neither of them said it as a joke. A 14-year-old girl was carrying the full emotional weight of a grown adult. While simultaneously being consumed by one of the most demanding careers in the entire entertainment industry. With no room to breathe. No room to process. No room to simply exist as a child. And the people who were supposed to protect her. Her management. Her representation. The executives signing her checks. Not one of them stopped. Not one of them asked if she was actually okay. They were too busy counting the ratings. By the time Family wrapped in 1980, Kristy had filmed nearly 100 episodes. She was 18 years old. And she was already completely running on empty. Then came Little Darlings. Then came 8 films in 6 years. Relentless. Back to back. No space. No recovery. No time to be anything other than what the industry needed her to be on any given production day. She later said she never said no to anything. Not because she did not want to, but because she had never been taught that she was allowed to. Before I could even say yes or no, she recalled, I would be on a plane to a new set. That is not a career. That is a machine consuming a person from the inside out. And then came Paris. Stop right there. Because this is the part that was buried. The part the tabloids weaponized and the studios obscured. The part that exposes exactly what this industry does when one of its most valuable assets starts to crack under the weight of everything it has demanded from her. 1984. The film is Just the Way You Are. Shooting in Paris. On paper it looks like a dream. But Kristy McNichol was not okay. She had not been okay for a long time. She could not sleep. Could not eat. Was gripped by anxiety so overwhelming she could not even identify where it was coming from. Just a constant, suffocating certainty that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. She went to her manager. Trusted him. Told him she was struggling. His response? Don't worry. We will get through it. And then they put her on a plane to France anyway. That decision. That single moment of a manager choosing a production schedule over a human being in obvious distress is the moment that defines everything that comes after. Because in Paris, things did not stabilize. They collapsed. Her weight dropped to 96 pounds. 96 pounds. She barely slept. When she did, she was haunted by disturbing dreams she could not escape. In her waking hours she trembled. Cried alone. In her trailer. On set. Anywhere she could find 30 seconds of privacy to completely fall apart. She described herself as a wreck. Not a tabloid's word. Not a studio's statement. Her word. And where was her management while this was happening? Where were the people being paid to protect her interests? Where was the industry that had built its entire prime-time schedule around her face and her talent and her ability to make millions of Americans feel something real every single week? They were managing the production. She was managing her survival. A holiday break finally gave her a window to come home. A close friend took her to a specialist. A doctor who worked with young people in emotional crisis. That doctor looked at Kristy McNichol and did something nobody in Hollywood had ever done. He actually saw her. Not the asset. Not the rating. Not the Emmy winner. Not the household name. A young woman who had been burying years of unexpressed pain so deep she had not even known it was there. He told her that her childhood had never given her the space to feel those things. And now everything was rising to the surface all at once. He told her not to go back to France. Not to finish the film. And for the first time in her entire career, Kristy McNichol listened to her own needs instead of everyone else's. She stepped away. Hollywood's response was immediate. And it was brutal. The studio released carefully worded statements about a chemical imbalance. Clinical enough to sound responsible. Vague enough to protect the people who actually needed protecting. Themselves. And into that vacuum the tabloids poured everything they had. Drug addict. Alcoholic. Mentally unstable. Falling star. Every label that would stick. Every headline that would sell. The truth. That a child had been handed adult responsibilities before she could legally drive. That she had been put on a plane to a foreign country while in obvious psychological crisis. That an entire industry had profited from her exhaustion and then called it opportunity. That truth was not a story anyone wanted to tell. Because telling it accurately meant looking directly at their own reflection. So they buried it. Moved on. And found the next young face to put in front of a camera. She eventually returned to finish the film. But something had shifted permanently. Roles became fewer. Less significant. The industry that had once competed for her availability now barely called. Then in 1988 she found a degree of stability in the NBC sitcom Empty Nest, playing Barbara Weston. Over 100 episodes. 7 seasons. Quietly rebuilding what the industry had quietly dismantled. But even then the internal battles continued. The diagnosis finally came. Bipolar disorder. A name for the chaos she had been living inside since she was a child carrying a briefcase to a job she was too young to fully understand. In 1992 she left Empty Nest. In 2001 she made it official. She retired. And here is the line that every piece of farewell coverage completely missed. Her publicist released one statement on her behalf. Simple. Precise. And absolutely devastating if you actually listen to it. It said she had retired from her career after 24 years. And that it was time to play her biggest part. Herself. Read that again. 24 years of performing for other people's benefit. And the biggest role she could imagine. The one she had to retire from an entire industry to finally play. Was simply being herself. That is not a graceful exit line. That is a 24-year wound finally being spoken out loud. Now picture her walking through snow. Quiet. Unhurried. Nobody watching. No cameras. No crew. No manager waiting with a flight itinerary to somewhere she does not want to go. Just cold air. Silence. And the extraordinary, hard-earned freedom of being somewhere because she chose to be there. That version of Kristy McNichol. That quiet woman walking through the snow entirely on her own terms. Is the version Hollywood never wanted you to see? Because it does not generate revenue. It does not fill a primetime slot. But it is the most honest image of her that has ever existed. In the years since she has built a life that looks nothing like the chaos of her youth. Yoga. Tennis. Long quiet afternoons with her dogs. Singing with the Los Angeles Valley College Choir. Not because a studio scheduled it. Because music was always the one place she could feel something without having to perform it. She came out publicly in 2012. Not for headlines. Not for attention. To be a quiet light for anyone still struggling in the dark the way she once struggled. Her brother Jimmy never left her side. The same person who moved in during her worst moments and simply refused to go anywhere. Through every breakdown. Every recovery. Every quiet day of rebuilding. He stayed. She is in her 60s now. She says her life is happy. She says it is serene. And those 2 words. Coming from a woman who once weighed 96 pounds and cried alone in a Paris trailer while her management handled the schedule. Carry more weight than any award this industry ever gave her. When asked in 2015 if she would ever return to acting, she said never say never. But here is what that answer actually means. It means the choice is finally, completely, entirely hers. No manager can override it. No studio can schedule around it. No production can put her on a plane before she is ready. The power that was taken from a 14-year-old girl sitting in front of a camera for the first time has been fully reclaimed. And she is not giving it back to anyone. The scariest part of Kristy McNichol's story is not what happened to her. The scariest part is how ordinary her story is inside the industry that created it. How many other children sat in front of cameras before they were old enough to understand what they were agreeing to? How many managers chose production schedules over human beings in obvious crisis? How many studios released carefully worded statements to protect themselves while the person they were supposed to protect fell apart alone in a foreign country? How many times has this exact story played out with a different name and a different face and the same ending? Kristy McNichol is not an exception. She is a pattern. And that pattern is still running today. Subscribe. Because the next story goes even deeper than this one. And trust me. You need to hear it.